from the standpoint of putting our promises in place. I promised that I would do everything that I could to make this state a place where people were proud to live, and I think we've done that. When you look at what we have created in this state over the last 8 years, when you look at walking into a budget deficit of $10 billion in 2003, cutting that budget, reducing the taxes, the tort reform that we passed, I will tell you that doctors all across this state are really proud of what we've been able to do.
Thank you, Governor.
People are proud to live in Texas and live in a state where they can keep more of what they work for.
Can I respond?
Very briefly, please.
You talk about the great economic state that we're in, but the reality is Texas' own consolidated annual financial report shows under your leadership our debt's tripled, and per capita taxation has gone up 49%. That's painting a rosy picture that doesn't exist. Texans are suffering because Texas is marching right down the same path that California did. If we don't change our course, we're going to find ourselves there.
Ms. Medina.
Unbelievably good. Again, she had actual government numbers, something that these politicians never give the public. She was giving you the real numbers. Incredible, Debra Medina. That's why you need to be the next governor.
I think you and I read the Texas Consolidated Annual Financial Report. I'm not sure either Kay or Rick have ever looked at that, and you can't be an executive and not know what the financial condition of your organization is. Texans deserve an accurate, honest annual financial report from our CEO. That's the governor, and he's failed to do that time and time again.
And he got upset when you brought that up because no one, 10 years ago when I first started exposing this with Walter Burien and made a film about it, no one knew about these. That's the real set of books, not the budget. The budget is the fake thing they push. And boy, you broke a big taboo. He got upset when you mentioned that little secret name.
Well, I'm going to keep doing that. In fact, I carry it with me most everywhere I go, and if they'd have let me have some notes on stage last night, I'd had it in my hand. It is dog-eared and being used up. I'm waiting for the newest one to come out so that we can kind of look at where we are. But certainly we've seen the assets of Texas dwindle. They have not been well managed, and we're going to keep reporting that to people. I think we all know it. Intuitively, we know something's not right here. Things are not economically as healthy as the governor paints, the picture that he paints. We also ought to be pushing Texas. I've been pushing Texas to call a special session and nullify health care, but we also ought to be pushing the state government to cut spending right now. We've seen tremendous declines in the sales tax revenue, so the amount of money that they predicted they would have to spend is not going to come in. We already know we're going to be facing a huge hole in 2011 economically, and that hole's going to be bigger because that revenue is not coming in. Everybody is hurting, and when we have to tighten our belts in the private sector, the government needs to be even ahead of that curve and be ratcheting down and getting as lean and mean as they can be, and we've just not seen that kind of responsiveness in the public sector here in Texas. We've got to push for that.
Debra, shifting gears in the time we have left, we're going to get you in studio for a full hour in the near future. You're gracious enough to spend that time with us. If you could become governor, and it will then be a beacon to other states. Texas leads the nation. California leads the nation in collapse. Texas leads the nation in revival. Historically, financially, as Texas goes, the rest of the nation goes. That's been said for over 60 years. That if you can win in Texas, then in other gubernatorial races coming up, other in the fetters, true patriots, true libertarians, true constitutionalists will have even bigger shots. That's why this race is so important to the rest of the country, because it's a bellwether. And just briefly, if you became governor, you're saying, and other attorney generals are already saying this in other states, block the government takeover of health care, block the NAFTA takeover, really secure our border. I mean, governors have such incredible constitutional power. Briefly, what will you do through Texas on the national stage to block the globalist takeover if you become governor?
Well, really going to starting now talking to people about legislators about getting us the legislation we need to secure private property ownership. But at the federal level, boy, we've got to stop health care. Not one bit of that new nationalization of federal health care ought to be coming into Texas. I think we're going to see cap and trade come at us through the EPA. I don't know that they're actually going to get the bill through the Congress, but the EPA is going to try to implement that anyway. It kills industry. It kills all industry in Texas. We have got to get the Attorney General fighting on the behalf of Texas against the EPA. The governor ought to be interposing against the EPA. We have the TCEQ here in Texas that's not maybe doing what it should and all that it should. It's kind of been the puppet of the EPA. We need to relook at the role of that agency and say, Texas is going to take a critical look at where and if we need to be regulating industry, and everywhere else we're going to get out. We're not going to allow the EPA to set the tune that we dance to here, push them out of that, and let energy, ag, and other industry here in Texas produce like it needs to. That's going to send a real message all over the country and kind of restore to America that manufacturing base that we once had and allow people to get back to that healthy, prosperous economy.
Well, you're an intelligent lady. You're a constitutionalist. People are really resonating with your message. And I just want to say again, regardless if you win or not, we all win because you've now injected real issues, and we're now growing the grassroots across the country, just like with what happened with Ron Paul. It is essential, though, that people support you, that they put your yard signs up, that they call local radio, that they call BELO and say, put you in the next debate, that they donate on your website or sign up at your Facebook or get your email and text message alerts. It is essential, and it's just the political will of getting involved will lead us to victory. We know the path of standing up for freedom will win if people just keep going, keep coming, and never back off and never stop. In the last 3-4 minutes we've got left, Debra Medina, other issues, other points you'd like to make to this worldwide audience?
Well, I think I've got to pick up with where you're going. You're absolutely right, Alex. This is pedal to the metal. The only poll that counts is March the 2nd. That is Texas Independence Day. The dominoes are falling our way. If you ever thought that there was a time when your vote counted, it is now. You've got to get out. You've got to do all you can to raise the identity of this campaign, to help people know that there is someone carrying the voice of the people. I am just that vessel carrying that message. I'm honored to do it for Texas. I'm going to fight really hard, but we have got to have your help. We can win this race. Don't let up. Don't back off. This is a sprint to the finish. We're going to push really hard through till 7:01 p.m. on March 2nd and not let up a second before then. MedinaforTexas.com. Help us that way. Get out, knock on doors, let your neighbors know, ask them to vote, and then make sure that they go vote. So many people say, oh, yeah, I'm all about that, and then they get busy and they don't vote. Early voting starts in February. Very important that we turn out and vote at the polls. Don't be discouraged by any negative media reports that you might see. I think we kind of took everybody by surprise last night. I expect in the next 48 to 72 hours they'll get their act together and they'll start putting the negative spin on this and trying to marginalize the campaign and again say we're not going to have an impact on this race. Boy, we're going to have an impact, and we saw that last night. There was a period, and I know we've got a lot of problems with Google, but there was a period last night that we were the number one search on Google, and for several hours we were the number 3 search on Google. It went through not just Texas but the country like a firestorm. We can win this, but it means all of us have got to dig in till March 2nd and work hard.
The people know we're being looted and being robbed. 30-plus states are moving to declare sovereignty. The media spins that and says it's secession. No, the states created the federal government. They're saying no. The federal government's controlled by offshore banks. That's now public. Geithner's on the verge of being indicted. We now have this individual at the White House. Harvard professor Cass Sunstein is now the head of federal regulation, saying that he wants to ban free speech and the Second Amendment. I mean, he's actually saying it on video, on television, and that he's the next guy set to be the next Supreme Court justice. I mean, this country's in deep trouble. These people aren't playing games.
Right. You know, it's what caused the battle at the Alamo. They're essentially declaring the Constitution null and void. We've got a rule of law here. We're just going to ignore it. We ignore it. That's when Travis drew a line in the sand and said, you know, we're not ignoring this. You're not going to toss out the Constitution and name yourself dictator. That's what's happening here. People see it. We will either fight today at the ballot box, or our children will shed blood to regain the freedoms that we've lost. I think we know that. I think all of Texas knows that. Now's the time to dig in, fight hard.
And again,
let's go.
You're just saying what everybody already knows. Finally, you're saying, and I hear all these people calling into talk radio saying, I want Medina. These other people are fakes. I'm hearing Democrats say, I want Medina, not some establishment Democrat who's an Obamanoid. People know the two big parties are a fraud. They know that you're, cut out of Ron Paul cloth and that you're the real deal. We need to make you governor. And we need to certainly try as hard as we can, because regardless, we win in the info war by doing it. I talk about my neighbors, a bunch of yuppies who don't usually care about what's happening. I talk to them now. They're all waking up and freaking out. Debra Medina, we salute you, and we thank you for your great work. Let me say bye to you during the break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with the White House czar saying he wants your guns.